clinic or a charitable clinic or a dental clinic, and they're on the premises, that they would be covered with the same immunity, with the exception of gross negligence, willful misconduct. They would have the same immunity that the doctors who operate that clinic inside would have. So this bill is supported by the Virginia Bar Association, it's supported by the Medical Society of Virginia, Virginia Nurses Association, the Dental Association, Virginia Society for Anesthesiologists, of course the RAM Health Wagon, Virginia Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, and even the trial lawyers have said, So, right? See? Nonchalant and non-committal. So, based on that, Mr. Chairman, if anyone has any questions on Mr. Chairman,
I'm not letting him off that either. Senator, I read the statute that you get immunity if you forgive your service voluntarily and without compensation, which since the 13th Amendment, I mean, voluntarily is sort of superfluous, but certainly without compensation, we all understand that. The person who administers, organizes, arranges, or promotes. So if I'm paid to promote a rural health clinic, in other words, they give me $5,000 and say, put this up on radio and hand out handbills or put it out on the internet, am I now covered by the statute if I'm a paid promoter?
Well, the way it reads, anyone who promotes such services shall be liable under only the gross negligence standard. One would assume that anyone that promotes, I would dare say that willful misconduct and gross negligence in handing out flyers is probably not going to be there, although there may be a lawyer from Northern Virginia willing to take that case.
Further question? Senator Peterson. I guess my question is, and this statute has always protected people who are getting paid.
Right.
But the way I read this amendment, we may be getting into people that are, no longer we're talking about the medical providers, we're now talking about the organizers. In some cases, the organizers may be getting paid because nonprofits raise money for a purpose. Oftentimes it's to pay vendors that provide services. So are we now talking about protecting people that are getting paid to be there?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Peterson, I would say that that is not the intent. I mean, you know, we have Boy Scouts and troops that are promoting the RAM, you know, the health wagon in Southwest Virginia. I dare say that one, that the Scout troops would not be getting paid, and two, that I cannot see, even in 24 years of practicing law, where liability would arise from handing out handbills. So that is a, you know, promotes, can have a broad term, Senator Peterson, which is not just handing out handbills, but says, someone says, I think you need to go to the health wagon, and you should go, and it's on this date, and they could be not paid to promote, but even that could be protected under the statute, someone directing them who is in need of medical services to go. So it's really, the overarching principle is protecting the church that holds the dental clinic. It's protecting those volunteers who give up their time, may not be medical professionals, but certainly are a part of what we're trying to do in offering charitable care to individuals who otherwise would not get it. What we're trying to do is encourage charitable care. We're not trying to discourage, because in today's litigious society, you can sue for almost anything, as we both know.
Mr. Chair, final further question. Would the senator have any objection to before the word administers, organizes, just putting without compensation? Because that would clearly cover churches, Boy Scouts. To me, someone who's a paid promoter should not be covered by this statute.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Pearson, my concern would be if a charitable or let's say they rent the premises, and if they rent the premises, let's say the church, or they tithe to the church, would that not exempt them from the protections we're trying to give them? I think that would be part of my concern. But of course, the Bar Association may have an opinion about that, but oh, here it is. Everybody, put your hands together.
Hi, Jeff Palmer, with Bruce Smith on behalf of the Virginia Bar Association. I think we understand your concern. I think that that issue, you know, even if there was a nominal rent charge for the fellowship hall or donation to the church, because some of these are hosted by, you know, the Medical Society, the Dental Society, not necessarily just the health wagon. That would be a concern that with that amendment that we would share. So I understand your concern, but know, I understand the issue you're raising. I think just try to figure something out.
Senator Peters.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no on this for now, because I think we're expanding the statute into paid people, but I'm happy to work with the senator. I perfectly support the idea, but I just think we're expanding the statute, so, thanks.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the bill? Hearing none, is there a motion on the bills reported? If there's a motion, a second that the bill be reported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those no. And the bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Edwards, if you have the last non-member bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 1050 is a recommendation of the Joint Commission on Healthcare. Studies show that opioid addiction has become a very serious problem, and children getting involved in prescription drugs, for example, and other substance use issues, often these become a gateway toward opioid addiction. But what this bill does is simply expand the mission of the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth. Currently, the mission is twofold. One, dealing with tobacco use and prevention of young people using tobacco, and also childhood obesity. This would expand the mission into the field of substance abuse. We would use tobacco commission monies to also get into the mission of preventing and reducing substance abuse on the part of our youth. That's in a nutshell what it is.
Senator Edwards, just to let you know, this bill works its way through. Senate Finance is asked to just take a look at this bill, so will Senator Harrigan.
This, Mr. Chairman, came through the commission and we voted on it because of the rising concerns of opioid addictions, and especially in areas where it's becoming very prominent in Southwest Virginia. That we felt that expanding the scope of this commission would be very helpful to capture the young people early on, to make them aware of that. And I would move that we report the bill.
Sorry. Okay. Would you like to speak a little bit just for a second? If you welcome, and if you want to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keenan Caldwell, representing Community Coalitions of Virginia. They are the statewide youth substance abuse coalition, made up of about 25 different local coalitions that are around in many of your districts. They are on the front lines of addressing this issue, and they're looking forward to partnering with the Foundation for Healthy Youth and really addressing this issue. So, they stand in support.
Okay, is there anyone here in opposition to the bill before we send it up to finance? If not, Senator Carrico has made a motion, and Senator Black has seconded the motion that the bill be reported and referred to finance. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The bill is reported for finance. We'll work with it. It's not in any danger up there. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. And there's no other non-member here, and not seeing any. Maybe we can go down the list. Senator Howell, are you ready to go? If so, you have 880. You can do it from there if you like.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of years ago, we passed a bill requiring the licensure of genetic counselors. And that was a very popular bill across the whole political spectrum, because everybody knows the very difficult decisions and kind of information that people sometimes receive regarding their genetic makeup. So we passed the licensing bill, and we had a grandfathering clause that applied to only one person as far as we can determine. And she does not have the required master's degree, but she's widely recognized as an expert and has been practicing for more than 20 years. So everything was just fine. The Board of Medicine was supposed to promulgate rules and regulations, and everything would be great, but they haven't done the rules and regulations. So the date we put in for this counselor for being grandfathered has come and gone. And so we want to change the date. Now here's the problem. The date you see is turns out they're probably still not gonna be ready. So we have an amendment that Tom prepared for us with another way of extending the deadline.
All right, would you like to report the line amendment?
Sure, after line 32, or on line 32, after December 31, strike 2017, insert 2018, comma, or within 90 days of the effective date of the regulation is promulgated by the board pursuant to subsection A, whichever is later.
Everyone understand the amendment? There's a motion on the amendment.
Yes, thank you.
Motion is second that the amendment be agreed to. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no, and the amendment is agreed to. Is there a motion on the floor? Is anyone here to speak in opposition to 880? Seeing none, is there a motion on the bill as amended? There's a motion and second that the bill as amended be reported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no, the bill is reported. Thank you, Senator
Thank
House.
you.
Next up, Senator Peterson, you had 922. You prepared for that bill?
Yes, sir. Senate Bill 922 is really a cleanup bill, and David Brown from Department of Health Professions is here. And Mr. Chair, if you might, I would probably just assign my time to him, because he can explain as you go through the statutes, some of the wordsmithing that's taking place. It's not a substantive, it's more of a cleanup bill.
Okay. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Chairman, I'm David Brown, I'm the Director of the Department of Health Professions. And for years, it's been our standard practice to interpret the term licensure very broadly. And recently it was called to our attention by the AG's office that we probably ought to be more specific. So what we're doing in this section is we're not changing anything substantively, but in sections of the code that say license, certification, registration, we're adding the word permit as appropriate. And this would be both in sections that affect DHP and D4, and sections that only affect DHP. There was just inconsistency. Sometimes the language would spell out all the different categories of licensure. Sometimes it would just say licensure. And so this is a cleanup bill. We circulated this widely, everyone was opposed to it. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So I think there are a lot of cleanups, but the adding of the statement of permits is throughout the bill. What type of permits are you adding to the oversight?
Well, just be things like permit for a pharmacy would be an example, or permits for other types of places that we regulate that aren't licensed, they're not certified, but they're permitted. And it reflects current practice. This is what we currently do. We're not adding anything new.
You're not expanding your scope of regulation.
We're not at all expanding our scope of regulation.
Very good. Are there those that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the bill? Hearing none, is there a motion on Senate Bill 922? There's a motion and second that the bill be reported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those no, the bill is reported. Up next, I think Senator Donovan, you have Senate Bill 1009, but also I think Senator Barker, either identical or similar bill. Senator Barker, is that correct?
Yes, and I would like to make a motion to roll my bill into Senator Donovan's bill.
Do you know what your bill number is by chance?
1220.
First off, there's a motion that we roll Senate Bill 1220 into Senate Bill 1024. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those no, and those bills are rolled together. So Senator Donovan, do you mind going over your 1024?
Yes, sir. This bill is the result of some conflicts between federal legislation, federal regulations, and state in an attempt to make teleprescribing and telepsychiatry more accessible. And basically, there's some language in here relating to the patient-physician relationship and appropriate examination that is required. And so there are some, let me see if I'm on the right one.
This is the motor vehicle.
I'm sorry, I have it on.
This one relates to motor vehicle safety.
Telemedicine.
Telemedicine, one.
it possible for us to establish a bona fide patient-physician relationship between a telepsychiatrist and a patient on the other end. And it also allows the Board of Pharmacy. I am so sorry that I am bouncing around on this. I thought I had it in my head. Let's skip for now, thank you.
So we can jump over that, but let's do this. Maybe we could take up Senator Lucas's bill first, which is 974. Then Senator Donovan, maybe we can come back. I'd love to get your bills out, because I think we've got some really good bills that we could go ahead and knock out today. So Senator Lucas, why don't you take up 974?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 974 is a very simple bill that comes as a recommendation of the Joint Commission on Healthcare. And as a matter of background, traditionally, palliative care has been associated with several services provided to terminally ill patients through hospice care in preparation of death. Today, the definition of palliative care is expanding to include comfort care provided for a variety of long-term, chronic, and/or seriously ill patients, as well as the mentally ill. And what this bill does, Mr. Chairman, it only requires the Department of Health to make information about resources on palliative care available to the public healthcare providers and healthcare facilities on its website. This does not have any fiscal impact, and it only puts it on the website. But in the event that you need additional information, I have speakers, but that in essence is the bill.
Are there any questions to Senator Lucas about her bill? Hearing none, is anyone here to speak in favor or in opposition to 974? Hello, welcome.
Good morning, Melissa Aslow with the American Heart Association, and we are in support of this bill.
Thanks for coming. Welcome.
Good morning, I'm Brian Donahue, Director of Government Relations for the American Cancer Society, Cancer Action Network, and we support the bill.
All right. If there's no one else to speak in favor or in opposition to the bill, is there a motion on reporting the bill? There's a motion and a second that Senate Bill 974 be reported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no, that bill is reported. Thank you, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With that, Senator Donovan, maybe you could have your choice of either one of the bills, but we'd like to hear either one you'd like to give.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. It was an amendment that threw me off, but I am on page now. So, Senate Bill 1009 is really a way for us to smooth out the process of telepsychiatry across the Commonwealth. And it clarifies in our language appropriate prescribing practices so that there's a bona fide patient-physician relationship, and it clears up some misperceptions in the code that were related to scheduling, to prescribing scheduled medications. So that's really the section that you see in lines 31 to 36. It also clarifies licensees that are allowed to participate in this process, and that will include optometry and that nurse practitioners, physician's assistants. Finally, it does clarify there is a conflict between some of the federal regulations and their interpretation of some of it really did not apply to telepsychiatry, but was being interpreted in that way. And the language that you see in 168 to 176 clarifies that so that everybody's within the code to perform this very vital service that we need to extend psychiatry to places that don't have it.
Okay. Pretty straightforward. Senator Archer, anything to add to that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is an issue that we dealt with on the Deeds Commission a good bit. And clearly, actually psychiatry has been one of the areas of behavioral health services, one of the areas where telehealth services have been extraordinarily beneficial in helping reach a lot of people who previously did not have ready access to a practitioner. The critical issue here is that at the current time, a psychiatrist or other prescribing practitioner cannot provide a prescription unless they physically examine the patient. And what this does is it eliminates that, which is not necessary in this situation.
Yes, Senator Donovan.
Sorry, part of the confusion here is that the printed form I had was already already amended, but there are line amendments that need to go in to get this up to date for everybody else.
Okay, great. Tom has those. Tom, do you mind reporting those amendments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In line 83, after dentistry, insert optometry, comma. So on line 83, after veterinary medicine, insert or nurse practitioner or physician assistant. On line 140, strike optometry. On line 141, strike licensed nurse practitioner or licensed physician assistant. And then on line 171, strike possess and administer Schedule 2 through 6 controlled substances.
Is there a motion to adopt those amendments in a block? Motion is second that the amendments be adopted. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. And those amendments are adopted. Are there others that are here to speak in favor or in opposition to the bills? Morning, Scott.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Scott Johnson, General Counsel for the Medical Society. I want to thank Dr. Donovan and the work of the Deeds Commission on this. There's been a lot of people pulling behind it. We support it.
Thank you. Others? Welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm Labravia Jenkins, Commonwealth's Attorney in Fredericksburg and representing the Virginia Association of Commonwealth's Attorneys. The way we read this bill, it doesn't just apply to psychiatry, it applies to many areas of medicine. And what we see on the ground today is just a lot of opioid abuse. We see doctors who have been conned, if you will, into prescribing medications, and we're talking about the serious medications, Schedules 2 through 6. So we are concerned about allowing sort of greater or freer access of pill seekers or drug seekers in this instance. It seems to us that allowing physicians' assistants and other medical professionals, not just doctors, to more freely have access and allow access is going to be a danger. We're going over to see Secretary Hazel's presentation about opioids, and we are very, very concerned about opening up this area into telemedicine.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have Senator Donovan kind of address a couple of those issues, and then we'll make sure we allay some of those concerns.
So to clarify a couple of notes, those licensees are already allowable licensees to prescribe in Virginia, so it's a matter of getting access to patients. One of the very important parts of this is that not having psychiatric access, and those licensees are part of the psychiatric team that we're using to get, as well as other telemedicine, but not having access to those professionals in order to help patients with opiate crises type diagnoses, we are not initiating the medical treatment that they need in order to help them overcome that. So this is actually maybe a little bit opposite of what you're suggesting, is that this is a way for us to kind of help resolve some of those problems, is to get the psychiatric needs met of the people that are self-medicating with those inappropriate medications. So it's not a change in prescribing practices for Virginia. It is just a change in access and making sure that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted to make that possible via telemedicine. Does that answer your question?
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask you then that there be perhaps a separate code section which deals specifically with psychiatric telemedicine, because the way it's written now, it opens it up to all sorts of other medical professions without a physical examination, without actual application, if you will, of the problems that these people have. You know, we are facing a serious crisis, and I think that this access should be circumscribed in as many ways as we can do it.
And I believe that, Mr. Chairman, I believe that the code really does address an appropriate examination, and if it's not possible for that to be done via telemedicine, then the criteria are not met for this, if I am not mistaken. And so that's why the code says here that there has to be instrumentation diagnostic equipment, imaging records, those kinds of things, and Scott can probably address this in more detail, but this is written with respect to the idea that physical examination and primary care are an essential part of any kind of holistic management of the patient. But there are things, in addition to telepsychiatry, that we're gonna need to have in order to solve some of our access problems in Virginia.
So let's do this. Scott, why don't you give your perspective, because, I mean, I understand, because if we're gonna do anything that's gonna make it harder, we're just in too bad of a shape to do that, so I think your concerns are important. So Scott, maybe you can help us with that.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Donovan is correct. Caroline Jern pointed out from the Board of Pharmacy that in 2008, the Ryan-Haig Act was passed at the federal level, which clarifies what the requirements are for internet prescribing. We also in federal law have what the requirements are for telemedicine. And then you have our requirements. You have to have a bona fide practitioner relationship. So in our work group, when we had the many meetings over the summer on this, we had DOJ, we had DEA present and participating, and this does not expand any authority, but instead clarifies to make sure Virginia law is consistent with federal law and makes it easier for our physicians and prescribers to work with CSBs to these folks who have addictions or have mental health issues.
Scott, I wonder if you maybe work with the Commonwealth attorneys, because clearly we want them to be comfortable. If this bill moves forward, would you work with them?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, and I provided a letter in the process. I'm glad to sit down with them and walk them through and show how it works.
Thank you very much for coming. Work with Scott, and if there's additional concerns, let us know. All right, and you also in favor, I think we're in good shape. So is anyone here else that has concerns about the bill or in opposition to the bill? Hearing none, is there a motion on the bill? Tom tells me that this has got to be a sub because of your roll in, so why don't we have a motion to adopt substitute? All right, there's a motion second that the substitute be adopted. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Substitute adopted. And now there's a motion that the substitute be reported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And the substitute is reported. Thank you, Senator Donovan. If you don't mind, Senator Donovan, I'm going to slow you down now. We have got to go over to the House chambers at this time, and I would urge all of you, if you don't mind, this is probably 45 minutes to an hour, but I think it's going to be a good education for you to learn from Secretary Hazel and his staff about the opioid situation and what is expected in legislation to help this year. Thanks all. And by the way, we are not going to come back, so when we adjourn down there, we will be done.
All right,